Hello everyone, I'm the Storyteller, and I'm here to guide you into a peaceful rest tonight. I know many of you use these videos to help you unwind and drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, it really helps. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Get cozy, settle in, and let's journey into tonight's story. Relax, and let the soothing sounds carry you away. The Whispering Grove. The town of Eldermere was shrouded in perpetual mist, a quaint yet eerie village nestled between rolling hills and dense woods. It was a place where secrets were woven into the fabric of daily life, and the townsfolk, wary of strangers, rarely spoke of the ancient grove beyond the hills. One dreary afternoon, a stranger arrived. Tall and cloaked, he moved with an air of purpose. His name, he told the innkeeper, was Elias. The innkeeper, a stout man named Tobias, eyed him cautiously but offered a room. Eldermere was not a place that welcomed outsiders, but Elias's gold spoke louder than their suspicions. Elias's arrival coincided with whispers of peculiar occurrences. Farmers spoke of crops wilting overnight, and children claimed to hear faint voices calling from the grove. None dared venture there, save for Elias. With a leather-bound journal in hand, he spent hours at the edge of the woods, studying its shadows. Curiosity got the better of Clara, the innkeeper's daughter. She had grown up on tales of the grove but had never seen anyone brave enough to approach it. Late one evening, she approached Elias as he pored over his journal by the fire. "Why do you seek the grove?" she asked. Elias's gaze met hers, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. "I am searching for someone," he said. "The grove holds the answers." Clara's curiosity deepened. She pressed him for more, and Elias reluctantly shared the tale of the Whispering Grove, a place where ancient spirits lingered, bound to the land by a curse. According to legend, the grove could grant wishes but demanded a heavy price. Drawn by an inexplicable pull, Clara decided to accompany Elias to the grove. At dawn, they set out, the mist thick and unyielding. As they neared the grove, the air grew heavy, and the faint sound of whispers surrounded them. The grove was unlike anything Clara had imagined. Towering trees formed a canopy so dense that sunlight barely penetrated. In the center stood an ancient stone altar covered in moss and strange symbols. Elias approached it with reverence, his journal open. "What are you looking for?" Clara whispered. "My sister," Elias replied. "She vanished here years ago." The grove responded to his words. The whispers grew louder, forming a cacophony of voices. Clara felt a chill as shadows danced among the trees. Elias revealed that his sister had sought the grove's power to save their dying mother. She had made a wish, but the grove's price had claimed her. Elias had spent years unraveling the mystery, determined to bring her back. As he spoke, the whispers coalesced into a single voice. It spoke of a choice, a life for a life. Elias's determination wavered, but Clara stepped forward. "Take me instead," she said, her voice steady. Elias's sister deserves a second chance. The grove seemed to consider her offer. The air shimmered, and Clara felt herself being pulled into the shadows. Elias's cry echoed as the grove consumed her. Elias awoke at the edge of the woods, his sister beside him. She was alive but pale, her memory of the grove a blur. Eldermere's mist had lifted, revealing a vibrant landscape. But Clara was gone. The townsfolk whispered of her bravery, and Elias vowed to honor her sacrifice. He left Eldermere, the journal in hand, determined to uncover the grove's secrets and ensure no one else would pay such a price. Years later, travelers spoke of a cloaked figure who wandered the land, offering guidance to those who sought forbidden paths. They said his name was Elias, and he carried with him the spirit of a girl who had saved him with her selflessness. Story number 2, The Clockmaker's Secret. In the bustling city of Alt-Heron, nestled in a quiet corner of the marketplace, stood an old clockmaker's shop. It belonged to Arthur Pendleton, a reclusive craftsman known for his intricate timepieces. When Arthur passed away, the shop was inherited by his estranged granddaughter, Lila. Lila had never met her grandfather but was drawn to the shop's charm. Dusty shelves lined with clocks of all shapes and sizes greeted her as she stepped inside. Among them, a peculiar clock caught her eye. It had no hands, only a golden pendulum that seemed to hum faintly. As Lila explored the shop, she discovered a letter addressed to her. In it, Arthur spoke of a great secret hidden within the shop, a clock that could manipulate time. He warned her of its dangers but believed she could uncover its true purpose. Intrigued, Lila began to study her grandfather's journals. They were filled with sketches and cryptic notes about the eternal clock, a device capable of altering the fabric of reality. With the help of her friend Marcus, a historian, Lila pieced together the clues. They discovered that the eternal clock required a unique key, a locket Arthur had left hidden in the shop. After days of searching, they found it concealed in a hidden compartment beneath the workbench. When Lila placed the locket into the clock, the pendulum began to glow, and the room filled with a soft hum. The clock came alive, projecting a shimmering portal. Through it, they glimpsed moments from the past and future. The power of the clock was intoxicating. Lila and Marcus experimented cautiously, revisiting moments from their own lives. But they soon realized the clock's power came at a cost. Each use drained their energy, leaving them weaker. Despite the risks, Lila was tempted to use the clock to prevent the accident that had claimed her parents. Marcus warned her of the consequences, but her grief was overwhelming. Ignoring Marcus's pleas, Lila activated the clock. Story number 3. The Echoes of Ravenwood. The town of Ravenwood was the kind of place people drove past without a second thought. Tucked away in the shadow of dense, ever-creaking woods, it was a relic of a bygone era. The kind of place where rumors of ghostly apparitions and whispered legends weren't just bedtime stories, they were woven into the fabric of the community. The air seemed perpetually heavy, laden with the scent of moss and decay. For centuries, locals spoke of the echoes, an otherworldly phenomenon that occurred every few years. Those who heard them claimed it was as if the forest was speaking, replaying events from long ago, accompanied by a bone-chilling, otherworldly hum. People vanished after the echoes appeared. Others returned, but they were never the same. Some said it was the work of vengeful spirits. Others spoke of a cursed land, but no one truly knew. One stormy night, a stranger arrived in Ravenwood. Tall, with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through the soul, Daniel Grayson claimed to be a journalist investigating folklore for a podcast series. He was drawn to Ravenwood's legends, particularly the echoes, after stumbling upon an obscure mention in an old library archive. At the local tavern, the Hollow Lantern, the regulars fell silent as Daniel entered. The bartender, an older woman named Mabel, gave him a wary look but poured him a drink without a word. It wasn't until Daniel mentioned the echoes that the room's atmosphere turned icy. Conversations halted, and all eyes turned toward him. You're better off leaving that alone, Mabel finally said, her voice low and gravelly. People who get too curious about the echoes don't last long around here, But Daniel was undeterred. He spent the next few days exploring the town and interviewing reluctant locals. Most refused to speak on record. Those who did were cryptic, speaking in hushed tones about voices in the dark shadows that walk, One elderly man, Amos, told Daniel about his sister, who had disappeared during the echoes of 1973. She had left the house to investigate the sounds in the woods and never returned. Daniel set up his recording equipment in the woods, just outside the town. The first 2 nights were uneventful, filled only with the usual sounds of crickets and rustling leaves. But on the 3rd night, everything changed. The air grew unnaturally cold, and a low hum began to vibrate through the forest. Daniel's equipment picked up faint whispers that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. He strained his ears, trying to decipher the words, but they were garbled, layered with an eerie distortion. Then, the forest went silent. Not a single insect chirped. The oppressive quiet was broken by a scream, not human, but something primal and otherworldly. Daniel's heart pounded as he saw a figure emerge from the shadows. It was a woman, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. She mouthed words he couldn't hear before vanishing into thin air. Reviewing the recordings later, Daniel discovered a clear voice embedded in the static, and quote, "Don't look back," end quote. Daniel's investigation led him to the town's library, where he uncovered old journals and documents. One journal, written by a man named Elias Harper in the late 1800s, described a similar phenomenon. Elias claimed the echoes were not spirits but remnants of time itself, fractured and bleeding into the present. End quote, "The forest," end quote, Elias wrote, end quote, "is a wound that never healed. It devours those who seek its secrets," end quote. Further digging revealed that Ravenwood had been built on the site of a massacre. In 1692, a group of settlers had mysteriously turned on each other, driven mad by something they heard in the woods. The only survivor, a young girl named Abigail, claimed they had been cursed by, end quote, "the voices of the forest," end quote. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel ventured deeper into the forest. The deeper he went, the stranger things became. Trees twisted unnaturally, and the ground seemed to pulse beneath his feet. He found symbols carved into the bark, ancient runes he couldn't decipher. The hum returned, louder this time, resonating in his chest. The whispers grew clearer, calling his name. Shadows moved in the corner of his vision, always just out of reach. His flashlight flickered, and when it came back on, he found himself standing in a clearing. In the center was a circle of stones, each etched with the same runes he had seen on the trees. As he approached, the air grew heavier, almost suffocating. He placed his hand on one of the stones, and the world around him shifted. Daniel found himself in another time. The forest was alive with firelight and the sounds of chanting. A group of settlers stood in the clearing, surrounding a bound figure. Abigail, the girl from the journal, was among them, tears streaming down her face. End quote, "We must end this," end quote, one of the settlers said, raising a knife. But before the blade fell, the hum erupted into a deafening roar. The figure on the ground burst into a blinding light, and the settlers screamed as they were engulfed. Daniel was pulled back to the present, gasping for air. The clearing was empty, but the stones glowed faintly. He realized the echoes were not just fragments of the past but warnings, a reminder of the violence and chaos that had once consumed Ravenwood. Daniel returned to town, shaken but alive. He recorded his findings, piecing together the story of Ravenwood's dark history. But as he spoke into the microphone, he felt the weight of unseen eyes watching him. His final words on the podcast were chilling, end quote, "The echoes are not gone. They're waiting. And if you hear them, run," end quote. 2 days later, Daniel disappeared. His equipment was found in the woods, still recording. The last sound captured was a low hum, followed by a whisper, end quote, "Don't look back," end quote. Ravenwood remains a mystery. Tourists come and go, drawn by the legend of the echoes, but the locals remain tight-lipped. Mabel, now older and frielier, still tends the tavern. When asked about Daniel, she only shakes her head and mutters, end quote, "Some things aren't meant to be uncovered," end quote. And deep in the forest, the stones still stand, waiting for the next curious soul to hear the echoes.